ขอให้คุณมาอยู่กับผม
Let's start with the video. Chapter 80 Summary. Joe received a call from Ming, who sounded intoxicated and insisted that he come over. Ming asked Joe to cook for him, and as Joe prepared the meal, Ming revealed his suspicion that older Joe had burglarized his own home. Ming suggested that the burglar could have been old Joe himself, as he was the only one besides Ming and Sol who knew the location of the key. Joe was shocked and dismissed Ming's theory, but Ming insisted that old Joe was not dead. The two men glared at each other, both unwilling to concede. After they finished eating, they had a unilateral venting act in which Joe was initially silent. However, Ming seemed to be testing Joe, hitting his sensitive spots and causing Joe to feel pleasure. Joe tried to control himself, but Ming continued causing Joe to feel an unprecedented state of ecstasy. Ming became unusual as well, breathing heavily and ignoring Joe's pleas to stop. After they finished, Ming slept deeply, and Joe left quietly. He walked home, hoping that Ming had drunk enough to forget everything. Joe didn't know if Ming had noticed any differences, but he was too lazy to think about it. The next day, Joe took Ying to the hospital for her dialysis treatment and spent a peaceful day with her. The following morning, Joe wore all black and visited his parents' tombstones at the cemetery. Looking at the familiar yet distant faces on the tombstone, Joe sat down and felt uncomfortable. He had thought that after so many years, he would have long been at peace. But having experienced so many things, he had nowhere to vent out his grievances. "Dad, Mom, I'm here to see you. You can't recognize me looking like this, but I'm Joe. I am really Joe. I am your son. No matter how I look like—" Toward the end, Joe is choked up with emotions. He suddenly had the urge to cry. If you like this kind of video and want more videos, then subscribe to my YouTube channel. Only 6.8% of you had subscribed to my channel. Please subscribe, it will motivate me to make more videos like this. Let's continue with the video. Chapter 81. Summary. Joe confessed to his parents about his situation, revealing secrets he had kept inside for a long time. He was at the cemetery talking to his parents' graves when he was joined by Woot and Sol. Woot, overwhelmed with emotion, attacked Joe upon seeing him, and the three men cried together. They later gathered in a coffee shop, struggling to come to terms with the situation. Joe recounted the events leading to his current state, explaining how he fell off a cliff and woke up in a different body. Woot and Sol, after hearing his story, were filled with disbelief and confusion. Despite their initial disbelief, Woot and Sol eventually accepted the situation, and the three friends reunited, embracing the surreal circumstances. They drank together, celebrating Joe's return, and spent the night at the coffee shop, drunk and at peace. The following day, Joe felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. He was no longer burdened by the secret he had carried for so long. Ying, Joe's mother, noticed the positive change in her son, who was now more responsible and cheerful. Joe took his mother and the caretaker auntie out for a meal, feeling content and relieved. Later that day, Sol called Joe, eager to see him. Joe agreed to meet, and Sol picked them up, taking them home. As they drove, Joe noticed one of his advertisements displayed prominently on a billboard, marking the first time he had been recognized for his work. Don't forget to share this video and comment your thoughts about the series. Chapter 82. Summary. Sol waited in the parking lot instead of joining Joe, his mom, and the caretaker auntie in the restaurant to avoid recognition. When they approached, Sol greeted them with a professional smile, revealing his likable and warm demeanor. After dropping off Joe's mom and aunt at home, Sol and Joe were left alone in the car. Sol looked at Joe with a deep gaze and touched his face, wanting to quickly adapt to his new appearance. Joe revealed that he didn't mean to hide his identity from Sol, and Sol expressed his gratitude for Joe being alive. After calming down, Sol asked about Joe's relationship with Ming, expressing his disapproval and confusion. Joe explained that he needed money and that his feelings for Ming were not a factor. Sol offered to pay off Joe's debt and asked him to break off his relationship with Ming. However, Joe declined, stating that he wanted to solve his own matters and not rely on others. Sol insisted on helping, but Joe asked him to keep his identity a secret instead. Sol struggled to understand Joe's decision to be with Ming, suspecting that Joe still had feelings for him. However, Joe clarified that it was a matter of necessity and that his deal with Ming would soon be settled. Sol grabbed Joe's shoulder, pleading with him to break off his relationship with Ming and give him a chance. Sol's insistence on helping Joe stemmed from his desire to protect him from Ming, who he believed was responsible for Joe's death. Just as the two were at a standstill, Joe's phone rang. It was Woot, who asked them to meet him at a hotel. Woot arrived with a serious demeanor and poured them all a glass of liquor. He looked at Joe with pity and hesitation before revealing that someone had gone into the mountains and had found a body, suspected to be his. Joe bent down and clutched his head, processing the news. Thank you for watching. If you want to read the novel, then visit patreon.com/blspoilers. The link will be in the description. Special thanks to my legendary supporters, Melanie Harris, Kiara Russell, Rebecca, Ann, Brian Stargell, Chelsea 212, Suzanne 233, Tamara Coomer, Ims T, Maria Lalbakan, Sharon Fong, Martina Bosinkova, S. Armstrong, P. Pri, ed.